A question has been put to me, a question that I feel penetrates to the very heart of our modern sorrow, and perhaps you will recognize yourself in it. A person writes that for the last 7 years, whatever they have attempted to undertake, whether it is an inward psychological journey or an external one in the fields of business, finance, or family, it has utterly failed. They use the powerful phrase, anything that I have touched has turned to ashes. They ask what is the cause of this and what is the remedy. Now, before I respond, I must ask you something. Are you actually interested in this person's question? Are you truly listening to the pain and the confusion in it? Or is it merely somebody else's problem, a momentary distraction while you wait politely or impatiently for your question, the one that you are burning to ask, to be addressed? We have become so insulated, haven't we? Trapped in the echo chamber of our own anxieties, our own curated feeds of personal concerns, that we find it extraordinarily difficult to listen to a question that doesn't immediately serve our own interests. But I would ask you to look at this particular question closely, because I believe this feeling of everything turning to ashes is not an isolated incident, but is, in fact, the deep, dark shadow cast by the very thing we all worship, the God of success. We have, as a collective, as a global society, built a grand and terrible temple to this God. We worship success politically, religiously, in the world of business, in science, in the arts. You all want to be recognized, to be rewarded, to become famous, to have your name known. I don't know if you have ever watched the silent, bitter infighting that goes on among academics, among scientists scrambling for a patent or a prize, among business people fighting for market share, or even among neighbors comparing their families. My family is better, more accomplished than your family. It is all part of the same singular process, the desperate, driving desire to succeed. But what is this success? I am asking you, and you must answer this for yourself, inwardly, with complete honesty. You can't all reply out loud, of course, as that would be chaos, but you must respond to this question within yourself. Why is it that we are all, in different ways, seeking to be successful? What does that word, success, actually mean to you? Is it, when you strip away the polite justifications, simply the fulfillment of your desires? Is it the drive to have more money, to be famous, to win the Nobel Prize, or in our modern pantheon, to be an influencer with millions of followers, to be verified, to be seen? And if you cannot achieve this, what happens then? You become jealous, angry, you fight, you feel that sense of failure, that everything is turning to ashes. So, what does this drive for success mean? Perhaps you are a spiritual person, a disciple of some guru, and I truly hope you are not, but if you are, you want to attain something, whatever that may mean. You want enlightenment, you want self-realization, as if it were another trophy to put on the shelf. You see, it is the exact same process whether in the business world, the psychological world, or the so-called spiritual world. We all want to be successful, to achieve something, to arrive at a destination. So, I must ask again, why? What is this tremendous overpowering human urge that propels us, that drives us to seek this thing we call success, both in the affluent, developed societies and those that are not. Please answer it for yourself. Is it that you believe that through power, through money, you will finally have freedom, and that with this freedom, you can finally enjoy your life? Money has become extraordinarily important, hasn't it? And therefore, having no money also becomes a burning central fact of life. We are obsessed with it. And with power, political power, religious power, the power of the priests in the temples, the power of a CEO, the power of a social media platform, it is all a form of power, a way to exert influence over somebody, over the world. We all want that in some measure. And all of this entire package of money, fame, and power, you call success. If you are not born beautiful, you want to become beautiful. And so the industry of comparison thrives. And so it goes on and on and on. Does this success then depend entirely on comparison, on competition? You must answer this. In business, in examinations, every child wants to be successful, to be better than the other. What does all of this mean? This tremendous, exhausting urge to be successful, to achieve, and at its very root, to become. Please, let us look at that word together. To become. I am not this, but I will become that. I am poor, but I will work relentlessly and become rich. I am unknown, but I will become famous. I am violent and angry, but I will practice and meditate and become non-violent. This is the game we all play, this everlasting, consuming struggle to become something other than what we are. You're an apprentice, and you want to become the master. You are a follower, and you want to become the guru. We all know this game, but I am asking you to look more deeply. What is it that is becoming? Please answer this question for yourself. What is this thing that is on this journey of becoming? What is it that says, I am nothing, but I will be something? We are asking, you and I, what is this thing that is constantly in the process of becoming? What is it within you that says, I am nothing, but I will become something? Is it not thought itself? Is it not the image you have of yourself, an image built from all your memories of past pains and pleasures, an image composed of your fears, your anxieties, your cultural conditioning, and your desperate longing for security? This I is not a solid, permanent entity. It is a bundle of ideas, a psychological structure that feels itself to be insufficient, incomplete, and empty. And because this I feels empty, it projects an ideal, a future state of being where it will finally be full, complete, secure, and successful. This projection, this goal, is what we call becoming. And the entire movement from what is this feeling of emptiness to what should be that future state of success is what we call life. We dedicate our entire existence to this journey, this frantic climb from the apprentice to the barrister, from the unknown to the famous, from the sinner to the saint. And is the root of this becoming the very fuel for this engine, not desire. Think about it with me. You desire a better house, a more beautiful car, a more subservient partner, a higher status job. You desire to be seen as intelligent or spiritual or creative. You desire to have children, or if you have them, you desire for them to be successful so that their success reflects upon you. This desire is the root of becoming. And please, I am not saying anything against desire at this moment, so do not immediately put up your guard or try to suppress it. We are not here to condemn or to justify. We are here to understand. We are simply questioning together whether this incessant desire is the driving force behind this exhausting struggle to become. You see a beautiful house with a perfect garden, a lawn kept without a single weed, and in that moment of seeing, you say, "My God, I wish I had that." That is the birth of becoming. This movement is exactly the same, whether the object of desire is a new car or what we call enlightenment. The desire to achieve nirvana, the desire to attain illumination, the desire to be a great scientist and win the Nobel Prize, or the desire to be the richest, most powerful person in your small town, it is all the same movement. It is the I seeking to aggrandize itself, to add to itself, to become more. So we must, if we are serious, inquire not just into one of the facets of becoming, but into the very nature of desire itself. What is desire? Now, I have asked that question and it remains there, hanging in the air between us. How do you respond to it? Do you immediately search your memory for an answer you have read in a book, perhaps even a book I have written? Because if you quote me or anyone else, you haven't understood. The word is not the fact. The description, the book, is not you. What is important is what you are, what you discover in the laboratory of your own mind. So, what is desire? Probably you have never even thought about it in this way, and I say this with the greatest respect. You have never, perhaps, simply sat with the question and investigated it. When desire arises, you either try to fulfill it with all the immense complications and problems involved in that fulfillment, or if you are a moral or religious person, you say, "I must not have that desire," and you suppress it. You control it, you try to transcend it, but is that not just another trick of thought? The monks throughout the world in all religions have tried to suppress desire, but they have only identified their desire with a different object, a figure, a symbol, an idea, a principle, a savior, or God. The monk who has a desire only for God, whatever that God may be, is still driven by the very same fire of desire that drives the businessman seeking $1 million. The object is different, but the movement is the same. So let's ask again, and please look at it for yourself. What is desire? Someone might answer, as one person did, "Is it that I want a meaning to my life?" Is that what desire is? The search for meaning? Let us look at that. When you say, "I want a meaning to my life," what does that statement imply? It implies, surely, that your life as it is now has no meaning. You feel empty, lost, and so you try to give a meaning to it, either intellectually, through a philosophy, or emotionally, through a devotion, or by dedicating yourself to a cause, to painting, to playing the violin, to anything to escape from the stark, terrifying fact of your own inner emptiness. You may be married, have children, have a job, and yet when you reach 40, 50, or 60, you feel this gnawing sense that life has no meaning. So you go to the temple, you read scriptures, you follow a new guru, you become a political activist. But all this is an escape from what you are. If you want to give significance to a tree, you will never see the beauty of the tree itself. You will only see the significance you have projected onto it. In the same way, if you try to give meaning to your empty life, you are not understanding your life. You are simply covering over the emptiness with an idea, a new form of becoming. So let us go deeper. What is desire and how does it arise? What is the relationship between desire and thought? We live by sensation, don't we? Sensations are the responses of our senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. We must have sensations, otherwise, we are paralyzed. And frankly, many people are paralyzed, not physically, but psychologically. They are paralyzed by their country that is degenerating, paralyzed by their gods, by their philosophies, by their way of life, by their fear of what their neighbor thinks. They are paralyzed because they live in a world of second-hand concepts, not in the direct, living world of sensation. I am not criticizing, this is a fact. Unless you are totally paralyzed, your senses are operating. When you look at the tree and see the beauty of the light playing among the leaves, there is a response, there is a sensation. When you see a beautiful person, you have sensations. When you see a very, very clever man and you are a very clever people, too clever by half, with an explanation for everything, that too creates a sensation. But your clever analyses, your explanations, your quotations from holy books have nothing whatsoever to do with your actual daily living. There is a vast, unbridgeable gap between your theories and your daily life, and that is why you are all living a life that has no meaning. So let's proceed. What is the origin, the very beginning of desire? We are asking, you and I, what is the origin, the very beginning of desire? Let us trace it together very slowly, for it happens so quickly, so instantaneously, that we almost always miss it. I see you. There is the visual perception, the seeing of the color of that sari or that shirt or the tree outside the window. The eye sees, the ear hears, the senses operate. And from this seeing, from this hearing, a sensation arises. This is natural. This is biological. You see a beautiful sunset and there is a sensation of delight. You hear a harsh noise and there is a sensation of displeasure. We must have sensations. Otherwise, as I said, we are paralyzed. We are not fully alive. If your arm has no sensation, it is paralyzed. In the same way, a mind that does not feel, that is not sensitive to the world around it, is a dead mind. So, sensation is a natural, healthy, vital state. Let us follow this. I see that beautiful house with the lovely garden. The seeing creates a sensation. If I am a friend of the owner, I might go inside. I might touch the cool marble. I might look at the perfect shape of the windows, the quality of the light in the room. This is contact. And from this contact, this touching, this deeper engagement, a greater sensation arises. You all do this, don't you? You walk into a shop, you see a beautiful shirt or a dress. The seeing is the first sensation. Then you go inside, you touch the material, you feel the texture. That is contact, which creates a stronger sensation. Now, up to this point, everything is simple, everything is natural. There is no problem, there is no conflict, there is just perception and sensation. But then, what takes place, please, you must answer this for yourself, think it out, go into it carefully with me. At that moment, what happens? Sensation is there, pure and simple, and then, in a fraction of a second, thought comes in. Thought comes in and says, how nice it would be if I had that house. Thought says, if I owned that, I would be happy. Thought says, that is a beautiful shirt, and if I wear it, people will see me as successful, as attractive, as powerful. Do you see what has happened? Thought has taken charge of this simple, natural sensation. Thought, which is itself a sensation, a response from memory, takes that new sensation and uses it. Thought creates the image of me, the I, living in that house, wearing that shirt, possessing that car. Thought projects the me into the future, enjoying the pleasure that this object promises. And at that exact second, at the very instant that thought shapes the sensation and creates that image of me and mine, desire is born. Please, do not just agree with me. Do not simply nod your head and say, yes, that is a good explanation, because if you do, you are a slave to desire and you will remain a slave. But if you see this for yourself as a fact in the laboratory of your own mind as you live your daily life, then you have discovered something that can fundamentally change your world. Sensation is healthy and normal. But then thought comes along and out of that sensation creates the image. And it is this image, this picture of me possessing or me becoming, that is the root of desire. This is the mechanism, whether the object of desire is a new home, a sexual partner, a political position, or enlightenment. The desire for God is born in exactly the same way. I feel the sensation of my own emptiness and fear and thought creates the image of me in a future state of bliss, of security, of union with God. It is the identical process. And because this desire, this constant wanting, striving, possessing, and becoming creates such immense conflict, such jealousy, such anxiety, such infighting, and ultimately such sorrow, what have we, as human beings, done for thousands of years? We have invented the idea of control. We say, desire is bad, it must be suppressed, it must be transcended, we must escape from it. Have you ever watched the sannyasis, the monks in this country, or the very devout monks in Europe? I have walked behind them. They are walking down the street, chanting a mantra, clutching a holy book, their eyes fixed on the ground. They never look around. They dare not look at the beauty of the earth, the flowers, the streams, the sky, or the passing woman, because they are terrified of temptation. They are afraid of sensation itself. And in our modern world, you do the same, just in different clothes. You go on a digital detox not because you understand your craving, but because you fear it. You impose a brutal, rigid discipline on yourself. But this is not freedom. This is not understanding. This is just building a prison cell of fear. They are still burning with desire, but they have simply violently forced it into a single narrow channel, the desire for God, for salvation, for a principle. But it is still desire. So I am asking you a much more profound question. Sensation is right, natural, and healthy. Can thought not interfere? Can you be so aware, so completely attentive, that you watch the sensation arise and you see the moment thought tries to take charge? And in that very seeing, thought doesn't move. Can there be a gap, a space, a pause between the sensation and the image making of thought? To be aware, to pay attention so that thought does not automatically, mechanically turn sensation into desire. This requires an extraordinary quality of mind. This is not a matter of discipline, because discipline itself becomes another desire. I desire to be a disciplined person. You see the trap. The solution is learning. There was a great Spanish painter, Goya. When he was very old, 95 or so, he said, I am still learning. Not I have acquired knowledge. Learning is an everlasting movement. It is always in the present. It is infinite. Knowledge is not. Knowledge is always of the past. It is finite. It is finished. But if one is learning about desire, not learning from me, not accumulating knowledge from a book, but learning by watching it in yourself, investigating it, seeing how it arises, its structure, its nature, then that very learning brings its own astonishing natural discipline. If you want to be a great chemist, the very subject of chemistry demands your discipline. You must be precise. You must be honest. You must observe what is. In the same way, if you are learning about yourself, that very act of learning is the discipline. You don't know any of these things, do you? You are all grown-up people. You go to your temples, you have your philosophies, and you haven't even gone into yourselves. You've never even thought to ask these questions. And so, life has become shoddy. Life, which is this extraordinary, complex, beautiful thing, has become this small, petty, meaningless affair of becoming something, which is why, for the questioner, everything has turned to ashes. But at this point, I can almost hear the objection, the very practical, logical, and seemingly irrefutable argument that must arise in your mind. What you are saying is all well and good, but isn't desire necessary? Are desire and survival not, in fact, inseparable? This is a crucial question, because if desire is simply the mechanism for biological survival, then to question it is to question life itself. But we must be very clear, you and I, about what we mean by survival. What is it that you are trying to survive as? Are you talking about physical survival, the need for food, for water, for shelter? That is a reality, of course. The body has its own intelligence, its own sensations, like hunger. But is it that which causes your psychological misery? Is it the simple biological need for food that makes you jealous, ambitious, lonely, and afraid? Or is it something else entirely? When you say, I must survive, Are you not really talking about the survival of the I, the survival of the idea of you, the survival of your name, your family, your status, your group, your beliefs? This is what we call psychological survival. And it is this, not the biological, that we have built our entire world upon. Let us look at what we do in the name of this survival. We create tribes and we give those tribes glorified names like nationalities. We say, I am an American, I am a Russian, I am Indian, I am British. And we build walls, both physical and psychological, to protect this identity. You believe that your nationalism, your tribalism, is the source of your security, the very guarantee of your survival. But I must ask you to look at the facts of our world. Is this tribalism, this glorified nationalism, not the single most destructive force on the planet? Is it not the direct cause of war, of violence, of starvation, of the very insecurity you are trying to escape? The original lecture from which this is drawn pointed to the conflict between the ideologies of Russia and the democratic world. But today, the divisions are even more numerous and more subtle. Are they not? We are not just divided by nations, but by political parties, by economic theories, by religious beliefs, by our online echo chambers. You huddle with those who think like you, who look like you, who vote like you, and you call this community, you call this safety. But this identification, this act of saying, I am this and therefore I am not that, is the very essence of conflict. You are not surviving. You are merely preparing for the next battle, whether it is a trade war, a culture war, or a literal war with bombs and guns. The danger is omnipresent, but you are blind to it precisely because you are clinging to the very idea that you believe gives you security. So, when we talk of survival, we must see that the desire for psychological survival, the desire for the me to continue, is the root of all this division. True physical survival, true security for all humanity, has a meaning only when you do not psychologically belong to any country, to any group, to any religion, to any ideology. This does not mean you cannot live in a place or appreciate a culture, but it means that your mind is not captured by it, not identified with it. Only then are you a free, sane, strong human being, both biologically and psychologically. Only then might you, as an individual, help to prevent the appalling stupidities of the politicians and the masses who, trapped in their own tribal desires for survival, vote for them and continue the cycle of chaos. This brings us back to that original painful question about failure. Why did that person feel everything they touched turn to ashes? Because they were playing this very game of psychological survival and losing at it. They were trying to succeed in business, in finance, in their family, which means they were trying to build up and secure the I, the me. They were trying to build a strong, permanent, successful identity in a world that is, by its very nature, impermanent and in constant flux. The I that wants to be a success is just a bundle of memories and fears, an image built by thought. And any structure built by thought alone is, by its very nature, dead. It is ashes. So, the failure that this person was experiencing was not a curse. It was perhaps the first glimmer of truth. It was the shattering of the illusion. The ashes were not the result of their failure. The ashes were the material they were working with from the very beginning, only they had been decorating it and calling it success. The deep seeing of this, the realization that the psychological self you are trying to save or aggrandize is the very source of your misery, is the only real remedy. The remedy is not to find a new way to succeed, not to find a different guru, a different investment strategy, or a different political party. That is just rearranging the decorations on a house that is fundamentally built of ashes. The remedy is to understand the entire mechanism of bequest. I look around and I see grown up people, mature in years, experienced in the world, capable of extraordinary technical and intellectual feats. And yet, what do we do with our inner lives? We engage in all kinds of childish stuff, don't we? You have people putting sacred ashes on their foreheads, a ritual performed as a sign of piety, a mark of devotion. We go to the temples, we go to the great cathedrals, we go to Mecca, we flock to places like Tirupati, we prostrate ourselves before idols and images that have been made by the human hand and far more profoundly have been conceived by the human mind. We do this, I believe, because we are profoundly frightened of the very emptiness that this life of constant becoming has created within us. The questioner who said, "My life has no meaning," was speaking the truth for almost all of us. When you reach 40, 50, or 60, and you have played the game of success, and you find that the house, the family, the money, the prestige have not filled that inner void, you panic. And in that panic, you run back to the traditions of your grandfathers, you run to the temple, you run to a new political savior, you run to a new age guru who promises you realization, or you run to the endless distractions of consumerism and entertainment. All of this activity, whether it is the frantic pursuit of pleasure or the solemnity of religious ritual, is simply an elaborate and noisy escape from the silent, central fact of what you actually are: an empty, second-hand, shoddy human being, living a life that has no meaning precisely because you are always trying to give it a meaning. You are terrified of the emptiness, so you try to fill it with beliefs, with gods, with knowledge, with experiences, with the noise of your own thoughts. You have become experts at looking outward. We can analyze the stars, we can split the atom, we can build vast complex societies, and in our modern age we have connected the entire globe with an instantaneous network of information. We have access to all the world's knowledge on a small piece of glass in our pockets, and yet we have never ever seriously thought to ask these fundamental questions of ourselves. We have never, with the same rigor we apply to science or business, looked inward to find out what we are. Where do you all live? And I'm not asking if you live in Triplicane or Madras or London or New York. I am asking, where does your consciousness, your mind, actually dwell? Does it live in the present, in the vibrant, living fact of now? Or does it live, as I suspect, in a small, dark room built from the memories of yesterday's pains and pleasures, and in the anxious, fearful projections of tomorrow's desires? You have never even thought to ask these questions. And therefore, if the life you are living has no meaning, and it cannot have meaning as long as it is a constant desperate, striving to become something other than what it is, then all the symbols you invent to give it meaning are themselves meaningless. The temples are full of things made by hand and by mind, and if you are worshipping them, you are worshipping yourself. You are worshipping your own thought. Thought created God in its own image, an image of power, an image of security, an image of a final authority, because thought itself is limited, frightened, and insecure. And so your gods, your ideologies, and your nations are just as limited, frightened, and insecure as you are. All of this, the rituals, the beliefs, the flags, the saviors, has no meaning at all anymore. So please, I am asking you not to get an answer from me, not to quote a book, but to ask this question of yourself with your whole life. Why has this thing we call life, which is an extraordinary thing, a thing of immense complexity, profound depth, and astonishing, heartbreaking beauty, why has that life become, for most of us, this small, petty, second-hand, and utterly shoddy affair? Why has your life, which is the movement of the entire universe, been reduced to this miserable little conflict of me wanting to become more? You are living a life of ashes now, and you are doing it because you are always pursuing an image, always trying to become something. You are never here, and therefore you never see the beauty. You never feel the depth. You never touch that which is real. You are always on your way somewhere else, to the next achievement, the next pleasure, the next distraction, or the next spiritual goal. This is the shoddy life, and the remedy, the only remedy, is not to find a better way to become, not to find a more successful path, but to see this entire structure of becoming, of desire, of the I that wants success, for the complete illusion that it is. In that very seeing, that choiceless awareness, without condemnation or justification, is the beginning of a life that is no longer shoddy, a life that is whole, and a life that is free.